Okay, so let us talk about what is meant by FMEA or failure mode and effects analysis. If I tell you that you use FMEA into your daily life, do you believe me? Yes, you do use it. For example, if you have to go to the office, right, then you are going to understand from which route there is a heavy traffic, and based on to the information, you can take a decision on to the change in the route or change in the mode of the transformation. So in essence, you are evaluating the what could be the problems, the mode of the failures, and then understanding what could be the mitigation plan, what could be the mitigation plan I have, and then so that you can reach the office on the time. This is nothing but the FMEA in another word. So let us understand each and every step of implementation of the FMEA. Let us understand what is the right place to begin the FMEA and the steps involved into implementing it effectively at the workplace. And here is the presentation now. So we will talk about the definition of the FMEA, and FMEA is a tool to identify and address potential problems and their resulting effects before an adverse event occurs. So you are not going to wait the problem to occur. You are not. You don't want to get stuck into the traffic. You are going to identify the potential problems, right? That the way I talked about, maybe based on to the Google Maps, you now realize that by route ABC I have a heavy traffic. Now this is the problem identified. Now how you are going to, now what is the effect? Let us understand what is the effect of the identified problem, or the root cause, not root cause but the effect of the identified problem. And it is that you may get late to the office, right? So the failure mode is what? The traffic, the heavy traffic. And the effect analysis is what? You may get late to the office. And that is FMEA, failure mode and its effect analysis. So once you identify the failure mode, once you know what it affects me, then you can identify the mitigation plan. That is the purpose of running the FMEA process, to improvising any systems or process in the place. So FMEA gives a proactive approach to you. You are not waiting to problem occur, but you are proactively thinking that I may get stuck in the traffic, I may get late to the office, and then making a mitigation plan so that you will never stuck in the traffic, you will never get a trap into the problem. So this is going to give you what, if you understand the kappa, the corrective actions and the preventive action. Look at here, the FMEA actually helps you in identifying the preventive action and action taken to eliminate the root cause behind the potential non-conformity. It is not yet occurred. But if you look at the another tools like root cause analysis, the fishbone diagram, or the 5 why, now these are the tools for what? These are the tools to address the problems after they occur. So you are already in a problem, right? And you want to come out of the current situation. You don't want to get those situations reoccur again in the process or the systems. So in reality, the root cause analysis, the 5 whys, or the fishbone diagrams, these are the tools which will help you to identify the corrective actions. That what is the corrective action? The corrective action is an action taken to eliminate the root cause behind the observed non-conformity. This is a reactive kind of action. That this is a you are reacting onto the situation. The situation is out of your control, you are already in trouble. Now you want to come out of this particular situation or the non-conformity or the problem, and these are the tools that will help you to come out of that, and it is called as the corrective actions. So I hope you must be clear now when the FMEA tool needs to be used, and when the another tools like RCA, 5 whys, or fishbone diagram can help you to manage the situation. Let us understand now at what level you can use the FMEA. You can use the FMEA to your existing systems or the processes, because you also want to understand what I can improvise on. There is no any system which is perfect, and there is always a scope for the improvisation. And I'm sure that being a quality conscious person, you wanted to improvise onto your systems, your existing systems, and hence the FMEA can help you to improvise your existing systems, the systems which are having some lacunas, some issues, and the challenges. You can definitely use FMEA for the new systems. That will help you to understand the bottlenecks within the new systems so that your new system can be implemented very effectively. You can understand the impact of the proposed change with the help of FMEA. So these are the few places where you can use the FMEA. Now let us understand, right? We discussed about the definition of FMEA, then when it can be used. Now this is the time to understand each step during implementation of the FMEA. It is very important to understand the FMEA process very correctly, and these are the 8 different steps. These are the 8 different steps through which I am going to explain you how the FMEA can be implemented effectively. So what is the step number 1? What is the step number 1? And the step number 1 is identifying the process, because you need to identify on which process you want to conduct the FMEA. And the process can be the various steps. There can be 10 different steps for the given activity. For example, if you want to conduct a water content analysis by using KF titrator, so there may be a one step, one process which can be talks about, let us say, from start to end. So the analyst has to standardize the KF reagent, right? Analyst has to then take the sample and then perform the analysis as per the given procedure. Now this is the step of conducting the water content analysis for the given sample. You can also decide on breaking this one step into multiple steps. For example, if you find the process is too lengthy, right? Like let us say the HPLC analysis or the assay by HPLC analysis. Now for HPLC analysis, you may have to prepare the sample, standard, mobile phase, run the chromatographic system and the calculations. So there are several processes which are involved into it. So if you want to simplify this further, you can say that, okay, the preparation of mobile phase is my one process. The preparation of the standard and sample is my second process. Setting up the chromatographic system is my third process, and the evaluation and the calculation is my the fourth process. So you can decide on to whether you want to have the single process from start to end as a one process, or if the process is too lengthy, you can break it down in the various processes as per your convenience. It is absolutely okay to break a one single process into multiple processes. Now once you identify the process that you want to work upon, then identify a team. It is very important to have a meaningful team. Okay, and what precautions you must be taking: involve those who have direct experience with the process. If I do not have any experience into the HPLC analysis, I'm not the right person to conduct an FMEA for HPLC analysis. So identify the right person for your investigation. Minimize the number of management or supervisory level individuals on the team. See, sometimes people may have the fear in sharing the actual situation at the workplace. So there is no any purpose of involving too many supervisory candidates as a part of your team. I hope you must have understood this. The third important step is now describe the process. See, you have selected the process now. You need to now describe the process in the details. And to describing it, I think you can do it with the help of the flow chart. So for example, if you are going to conduct the water content by KF titrator, so what are the different processes you want to adopt during this particular task? describe in terms of the flowchart. You may say that, okay, now determination of the uh, or the standardization of the KF reagent. This becomes one step. Then within that, the step number fourth is very important now. Identify what could go wrong during each step of the process. So during analysis of the water content in a sample, there may be several steps. There may be the several steps involved. It can be about, for example, during even standardization of the KF reagent, you may have to first make sure that the KF reagent is properly homogenized, right? You should confirm that the methanol inside the KF titrator is properly neutralized, right? And then how you are going to add the water for standardization of the KF reagent, then how you are going to weigh it, where is the balance, where is the cape titrator. Now these are all small steps that you need to execute during standardization of the KF reagent. So identify in every step of the given process what could go wrong. Now this is very important and you must ask this question, this very first question, what could go wrong, to identify the challenges, identify the problems, identify the failure mode. Okay. And for this, knowledge and experience of the team member is very vital. If I do not have any experience about standardization of the KF reagent, what value I can give to estimate and identify the failure mode? So having a knowledge is very important. To choose a person who has a knowledge into the given process. Otherwise, you will not be able to run the FMEA effectively. Brainstorming is very important. Unless and until you conduct a brainstorming, the people will not come up with the real situations and the mitigation plans. So making a brainstorming is very essential to run the FMEA effectively. Now create an atmosphere where staff participating in the FMEA feels safe talking about the process mistakes. And that's what if you look at, there is no need much of the managerial levels individuals into the investigation team. Otherwise, the people may have a fear of speaking openly. So have this conducive environment. And in essential, when you ask this question, what may go wrong will lead you towards the failure mode. Will give you the list of the failures that probably the KF standardization may go wrong if the KF reagent is not properly homogenized, right? If you have to have, let us say, multiple determinations for the KF standardization, three determinations, and if your RSD requirement is, let us say, not more than two, so your RSD can be higher in case of the KF reagent is not properly homogenized. If you do not take the precautions during weighing and transfer of the water into titration vessel, probably you will end up with the lot of variabilities and your RSD may get failed. So these are the failure modes you may get when you ask a question, what may go wrong? This is very important step. The next step is pick which problem to reduce or the prevent. Now you got the problem list out of your brainstorming session. When you asked about what may go wrong, now you have, let us say, 20 different problems or the failure modes. Now are we going to tackle all these 20 problems? Is it really possible to manage and come out of all these 20 issues and the problems? Or are really these 20 problems important and critical? So you need to identify, it's very important to identify which problem you need to reduce or eliminate. You cannot focus on all the problems and the challenges. Keep this in mind. Select problems based on its probability and the severity. So the next important guidance is what? If I have 20 problems, I will prioritize these problems. Now, these are the top 10 problems I need to address. So, select these problems, and these problems must and should be based on their severity and probability of the occurrence. It is very important to understand this one principle of selecting the problems. And you can do that with the help of risk priority number. The risk priority number is something which will help you in understanding which problem is really a constraint and threat to this one process. Risk priority number can be identified based on maybe the severity, its detectability, and something is called as the probability. So based on to this, you will be able to identify the RPN number, and if the RPN number is below the threshold level that you want to decide now, generally I have seen that the people range the probability from the range of 1 to 10, right? Severity from the range 1 to 10, or detectability from range 1 to 10, and the 5 becomes your mid level. So 5 into 5 into 5, right? Severity, probability, and detectability. 5 into 5 into 5 is gives the RPN number, which is the median RPN number, that comes to be 125. So 125 can be your okay uh, RPN, risk priority number. So think about, if something goes beyond 125, then it becomes the priority, and I must look into solving these problems, or at least reducing this kind of failure modes. So once the list of now problems are identified, then the next important step is identify the root cause behind why they are going wrong. See, knowing a problem is not going to help you to come out of the situation, and you must try to understand what are the root causes, why these problems are occurring at very first step. And you can use these tools now. RCA, that is root cause analysis, or the 5 whys, the fishbone diagrams. Now, these are the tools which will help you to understand the root cause behind the given problem statement, right? If my RSD is very high during standardization of the KF reagent, if my percent RSD is very high in case of HPLC assay analysis, now these are your problem statement. Now you need to identify what are the root causes behind this non-conformity, and these are the tools that you can use during the evaluation of the root causes. Then design and implement the change now. Now, once you identify the root causes, for example, in case of KF standardization, you identified a root cause as probably the non-homogeneous KF reagent. So, how you are making a change that will help you to sort out this, not using the non-homogeneous KF reagent into the future. Now, this is something called as a designing the change. And whenever you are going to implement the change, right, you want to now mitigate this one root cause, right? So how you are going to mitigate that, it is something very important that must be dealt with the something called as the smart. So your change must be smart, and smart means what? It must be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time based. Now who is going to what and by when is very important. So it must be a smart. So whatever change you are proposing, it must be a smart change. And finally, once you have the smart change in the process, what is the the effectiveness of the change? That is, evaluate the success of the change. See, unless and until you come to a ground reality, probably you will not be able to understand, whatever actions you have taken, the change you implemented is really effective in solving out the challenges that you identified as a part of FMEA process. I think once you go through this all 8 steps, select a process, identify a team, describe the process, identify what could go wrong, means to identify the failure modes, then pick up the problems you want to solve, then identify the root cause, the reason behind them, then design a proper smart change plan, and then evaluate the success of the change that you made. So this is nothing but the FMEA, right? The failure mode and its effective effects analysis. I hope now you must be able to understand the entire process of the FMEA. What is the purpose of running the FMEA very effectively at your workplace? So thank you very much for watching this video, and I will meet you soon with such kind of very informative and useful video. Till then, take care and bye bye. See you soon.